I'd like to speak about a very special event that Mircat Hashem are going to be able to experience Erev Pesach. And that event is called Bircat Hachama, the blessing over the sun. The Gemara in Brachos tells us in source number 1, Tana Rabbanan, Haroeh Chama b'tkufata, levana b'gvurata, v'kochavim b'mesilotam, umazalo k'sidram, Omer Baruch Oseh Bereshit. One who sees these spectacular natural events, the sun at its turning point, the moon in its power, the planets in their orbits, or the sign of the zodiacs in their order, should say the bracha, Baruch Oseh Maseh Bereshit. It is interesting to note in source number 4 that on the fourth day that God created the sun and it began to function as the center of our solar system, we know that after approximately 365 days and a quarter, the sun would be at its original place in the sky and a new year would begin, in a cycle that still continues without change. After 28 years, the original place where the sun began, where Kadosh Baruch Hu put the sun originally, again on the Wednesday and Yom Revi'i of creation, it will come back to the exact same point where God originally placed it. Now the technicalities of how that work and how do they figure that out are indeed an excellent question, and I refer one to the art scroll on Bircat Hachama, which has a very lengthy chapter which deals with the details of the scientific aspect, which is not my focus today. We know in source number 2, it is proper to wear dignified clothing while reciting the blessing. The blessing should be recited while standing, and the blessing should be pronounced as early in the day as possible, but should not be delayed later than the end of the third hour. So ideally, the moment that the sun enters into our vision, so to speak, that's really the moment of the recreation, the moment that God, so to speak, is the exact place that God had placed it on the fourth day of creation. So ideally, this is the time to really say the bracha. And that's why a lot of people get up at Vasikim, the crack of dawn, they first daven, and then they say the bracha, again, of Oseh Maseh Bereshit, the bracha that we say over natural phenomena like lightning, etc. One can, however, say the blessing up until really the third hour of the day, in recognition of this tremendous sight. Now, obviously, without getting into the halachic details, we'll touch on a little bit more at the end with God's help. We have to ask ourselves what is the big deal about Bircat Hachama? Why is there such a, obviously anything we do once every 28 years is a major experience. What's the mindset behind Bircat Hachama? And I will confess that the answer to that question, if you had asked me exactly a week ago, I would have shrugged my shoulders and said, I don't know. But after reading a bit on Bircat Hachama, I feel almost frustrated that there's only one shiur that I'm giving on Bircat Hachama. With ease, one could come up with 5, 6 shiurim without stretching it. There's a tremendous amount to say, and there's a tremendous amount of lessons to be learned. So again, without overwhelming us, I'd like to try to look at the experience in general, in very general terms, of what does this experience mark, and specifically what we can learn from the sun. That will be in general terms level number 1. Level number 2 will be specifically to look at this experience of what we are celebrating, and within that second level to look specifically at what lessons we can learn from the moon. And then I'd like to turn to understanding very briefly what is the meaning, what is the deeper understanding in this particular case of saying the bracha of Oseh Maseh Bereshit, God who has created the works of creation. And then we'll end with some final ideas connected to Bircat Hachama. I'd like to look at some of the ideas that are found in the art scroll introduction to Bircat Hachama, where he notes in source number 6 that every 28 years the sun would begin its spring season on the eve of a Wednesday at the same moment when it was placed in the cosmos. So in a sense, that rare Wednesday is an anniversary of sorts, a milestone that reminds man of the God who created him, his sun, and his earth. It is a time for him to pause in his incessant quest to feed himself and conquer his surroundings, a time to look at the teeming heavens and squint at the fiery sun, to contemplate the vastness of space and the infinite God to whom the heavens are merely a throne, to recognize anew that man matters no more. In all of this expanse, than an electron on Everest, yet man was proclaimed the master of all creation and given the task of subduing it, making it productive and utilizing it to assist him in the service of God. And not often do we have circumstances like this that really come in very infrequent, spurts of time, once every 28 years.